everyone, and welcome to today's STEM Ambassador training, where we will be talking about and exploring the routes into engineering. I am Jelena Gatusha, and I'm the Education and Outreach. Oh my God, that wasn't my first introduction. Education and Safeguarding Lead at the institution. Apologies for that. I've been at the IMechE for 4 years, and I've been responsible for education for that period. Previously, the role included responsibility for our student competitions and our apprentice competitions, and now I'm responsible for all of our education portfolio, and that includes the STEM Ambassador training and education resources and creating education resources, working with strategic partners and enabling our members to get involved in outreach, as well as supporting our committees and boards and ensuring that education and skills remain at the forefront across the institution. So some of you may be aware the institution recently launched its strategy. Our impact strategy has been released, and I'm very pleased to say education and skills really does cut across the lifelong piece, lifelong learning piece, and all of the areas across the IMechE. So we really look to support engineers in that lifelong journey from birth, or from cradle to grave, which sounds a little bit morbid, but it's very much what we're looking to do here. So we start with the education outreach piece at primary, and there's a whole range of things that our members can get involved with. From my side, I support with regards to removing barriers to participation, making it as easy as possible for members to be able to and to feel confident to get involved in outreach, whether it's going to your local schools, whether it's supporting via a strategic partner such as Stigma or Primary Engineer, or supporting via your regional education officers and our member networks who do a lot of outreach across the country. And then that takes us on again to secondary education and tertiary. We look to accredit and influence how engineering degrees are taught at university and also across apprenticeship schemes. That ties in very nicely with our student challenge portfolio, where we look to reinforce those practical skills that engineers need and to make engineers ready for industry. And then the lifelong learning element with learning and development and ensuring that engineers are fit for today's and tomorrow's challenges. So reskilling, redeploying, and providing that support. So today's session is very much about changes to the education system, which this often seems to be ongoing changes, which makes it a little bit confusing for members who go out across the country and do education outreach on behalf of the institution. So signposting what some of those changes are, the routes into the profession, how we can showcase all the different opportunities and really explain to young people that there isn't one set route and one size fits all. So then, and what the best routes may be. This is now, I think, our 5th STEM Ambassador training. We have monthly ones running. They're all recorded, as I mentioned, and available on the web pages. If you miss them, please do share, and please do use this opportunity to ask any questions. There is a live element, and we will have representatives. Alex will take over in a moment and introduce our other participants who will provide their experience and explain a little bit about how they got into engineering. So I will pass on to Alex, and thank you, everybody. Thanks so much for joining.
Thanks, Jelena, for that introduction. That's great. Thanks, everybody, for joining. It's brilliant to see you all on, well, for me, it's a rainy Tuesday evening. I hope the weather is better where you are. So I'm going to share my screen so that I can just share a couple of slides that we've got to help us provide some structure throughout this evening's talk. Fantastic. So yes, as Jelena said, we are doing a series of talks, and tonight it's all about how can we as STEM ambassadors, engineering ambassadors, provide advice on the routes into engineering so that we help demystify those routes, hopefully provide motivation and clarity for young people to make their decisions about their next steps in their academic journey and going on into careers. So it's a really valuable and important part of what we do as STEM ambassadors is obviously the inspiration piece and raising awareness, but giving young people that pathway that they can then easily follow. Now, I know a lot of you who have been to our previous training for STEM ambassadors, either online or in person, already know me, but for those that don't, this is who I am. So I'm Alex Knight. I'm a mechanical engineer myself and a fellow with the institution. And I've also founded a not-for-profit called STEMazing, which is all about getting women in STEM role models out there in front of young people to inspire them. And so I love doing this kind of work with you who are all, you know, amazing volunteers and want to give back and want to inspire the future of engineering. And I don't know if we've got any of our IMechE regional education officers on the call tonight, but if you're not aware of those, you can find out which is your local REO to the region in the UK that you live. And it's great to introduce yourself to them and to make sure that you kind of get up to speed with what they're doing locally, because that's a great way of engaging in your geographic region with what the IMechE is organising in terms of STEM outreach. So if you don't know who that is, then I would recommend you look on the website and find that out. Okay, thank you. And I can see Jelena's put that link for you to get that information in the chat. That's fantastic. So here is our plan of all of the sessions that we've been running and are planning to continue running. So if you have missed any, you can watch the recordings, but it's great to have people live because we really do want this to be interactive. So any questions or comments or lessons learned that you want to share would be brilliant, because as a community of STEM ambassadors, we are stronger together. And as this kind of peer group, we can learn from each other. So really would encourage, as we're going through tonight, if you've got any thoughts, comments, questions, please do add them in the chat. And then we can cover those, because it's great to make this interactive. All right, I also wanted to say a brief hello, first of all, before we get into the main sort of body of what we're going to talk about, a brief hello to our guest speakers who are joining us tonight. So if Alex Keeler and Andrew Livesley can come on camera so that people can see you as well, that would be great. And I was just wanting initially for you to give a very quick intro to yourselves and explain what is going on in these photos for people, because I've chosen these photos specifically. So Alex, can we come to you first for a quick intro to yourself and tell us about this photo?
Yes, of course. Thank you, Alex. So my name's Alex Keeler and I designed the overhead lines on the railway for IMechE Consulting. And in this picture, this is me winning the Baroness Platt of Rittel Award, which is the award for the best incorporated engineer application throughout all the institutions in the country from last year, which was absolutely an incredible experience, incredible to be able to do the application. And this was the award ceremony at the Guildhall, which, yes, really, really incredible experience.
Fantastic. Thanks, Alex. And I've invited Alex Keeler on because of her, the fact that she's an incorporated engineer and she can tell us about her route into engineering. So we get that kind of story for different routes into professional registration after education as well, which I think is really important as something we can add when we're talking about routes into engineering. It's not just getting your foundation engineering qualifications, it's how do you become a professional registered engineer after that as well. And even in that, there are obviously different options. Thanks, Alex. And Andrew, are you able to come on camera and do a quick intro to you and tell us what's going on in this picture?
The camera doesn't seem to want to work.
No worries, we can hear you perfectly. So
it's been an absolute pain. But this is a picture of me presenting my new T-level book to the IMechE library at One Birdcage Walk a couple of weeks ago. The library have copies of most of my books now, and I was absolutely delighted to do it. It's the first textbook on T-levels that's been written on T-level engineering. So quick off the mark, please run out and buy a copy.
Absolutely. Thanks, Andrew. And we invited Andrew on to talk about T-levels and give us some education ourselves on what T-levels are, why they're important, how it's relevant to us and our companies as another route into engineering, because T-levels are very new and not many people have even heard of them, let alone really understand them. So we thought it'd be brilliant to get Andrew on to give us that insight as the expert he is, having written the first book on it. Fantastic. Oh, sorry, we've got, if you're able to mute, unless you've got a question, that would be fantastic. Thank you. All right, so routes into engineering. I think it can sometimes feel like a bit of a confusing picture out there. And there are many routes into engineering in this country alone. And it sometimes, as a STEM ambassador, may feel a bit overwhelming and daunting as to how you provide that picture of different routes that people can take, and making sure that you are not confusing, not overwhelming the young people, so that they come away feeling like this is something that they can do. But at the same time, providing the breadth of options available so that different people with their different strengths, different passions, and different ways of learning can see a route for them in engineering. So we've typically got the vocational route with apprenticeships and now T-levels linking into that. And a few other areas as well, like HNC, things like that. But then you've got the more academic route, A-levels, university. They're normally the way we think of it, sort of more vocational or academic. But we also have things like degree apprenticeships, so getting a degree through doing an apprenticeship. So there's a lot of options out there, and hopefully tonight we are going to demystify some of that and give you the tools for your toolbox as a STEM ambassador to help you feel confident yourself in talking about the different options, and also be able to provide that clarity for young people you're talking to. So I'm very interested to know, people who are on the call tonight, what routes did you take into engineering? So if you can put in the chat, maybe a couple of words like A-levels, degree, work, or apprenticeship, work, or apprenticeship, degree, work, whatever it is that is your route in, so we can kind of see the breadth of what we've got in the room tonight. Okay, so Keely said open university degree, Lewis university degree, then into work. Yeah. So for me, it was A-levels and then straight into university, but I did a thin sandwich course. So I got work experience placements throughout my degree. Andrea said A-levels, degree, work. Andrew, A-level, degree, work. A-level degree from Kajat. Harry said A-level degree. Yeah, lots of people saying A-levels and then degree. I'm just having a look through here. Harry said A-level degree, Army, ING. Okay. Yeah. Chris, A-levels, BEng, MPhil, work. Degree. Paul, A-levels degree with a sandwich, sounds like mine. Thomas, A-levels, sandwich, degree, work. So a lot of people doing A-levels and then degree into work. And that is, I think, from a lot of people I've met at the IMechE, there's a large proportion who've taken that more academic route. So it's really useful for us to be able to talk about our own story and what we did, but also provide the options for alternative routes as well, which hopefully we will get into the detail and be able to give you some of that insight. Oh, great. So John has put ONC, Eng, HND, MEC, and then Polytechnic degree. Fantastic, fantastic. So it's great to have a bit of diversity in the room there. That's great. Peter says apprenticeship and then practical work, ONC to degree. Paul, apprenticeship, fantastic. IMechE, 30 years mechanical engineering, then own firm. Yes. Oh, brilliant. Fantastic. Oh, that's great. So we do have a bit of variety in the room. And so any comments you've got from your own experience, or maybe where you feel that you've got gaps in being able to advise young people, so we can really add as much value to you as possible. And then, of course, if somebody asks a question and you've got the answer because you did that yourself, then feel free to speak up and advise as well. Like I said, we're in this together. Fantastic, John. Yeah, so you put diploma, student apprentice. Fantastic. Oh, great. So we have got a good variety. That's fantastic. Now, on the slide here, you'll see a high-level graphic that is useful as an overview for giving young people as to the routes into engineering. This is from the Tomorrow's Engineer website. So they've got a fairly new document called All Routes into Engineering, which is a guide for students choosing their next step, which is a very, very useful guide. Highly recommend downloading that and having a read of that. And it's got some great graphics that you can use. So here showing you sort of high level how you can go down sixth form, apprenticeship. You can get a degree along the way as well and into work. And I think the fact that they've highlighted you can earn money doing your apprenticeship as you go is one of the big key selling points. And I would say from my experience, when I went from school straight to university, there was a stigma around apprenticeships, and I didn't even consider it an option for me. It was just expected that I would do A-levels and go to university. So I don't know about other people and how you feel around whether there's a stigma attached to apprenticeships, like they're almost not as, I don't know, worthy or highbrow or something as a degree. But I think we know now that that is not at all true. And actually, if I could have my time again, I think I would go down the apprenticeship route and actually get on the job learning. But nobody gave me those options back at school. I mean, we barely had any options about engineering. So yeah, Lewis has said definitely a stigma, but not so much now. And Keely says, yeah, not so much now. So I think that is changing, and it's part of our role as ambassadors to present the options without bias, without judgment, being able to say these are your options and they were all equally valuable and viable. It just depends on which route the young people feel they would thrive in. So hopefully we can get that message across. All right, now I wanted to move on to talking about sort of individual stories into careers. I wanted to go on to talking about Alex and your route that you took into being incorporated engineer, and obviously at the top of your field there because you won this award. So outstanding that you've done that. So as an inspirational woman engineer, it would be great for you to share your story. And I think having role models like you, and even if the people who are talking to young people are not diverse role models themselves, they may be a white man, which is great. We still need white men talking to young people and telling them about engineering, but being able to showcase examples of diversity in engineering as role models is so powerful and so important. So Alex, over to you. I'm looking forward to hearing your story about your route into engineering.
Thank you very much. So when I went to school, no one really discussed engineering as a discipline. So I went to all-girls school and it was never mentioned. It was, all I knew is that I loved maths, I loved physics, although I found physics incredibly difficult, but I still wanted to carry on pursuing it. And I was very lucky that in year 10, we got work experience at Airbus. And because I liked maths, everyone else got sent to the HR department, and I got sent to the landing gear test rig, which, as an amazing coincidence, led me to want to be an engineer. And I'm very grateful that it did, because I wasn't really sure what I wanted to do. But as soon as I saw like the different problem solving skills, it just completely inspired me. And even then, so I went to university 10 years ago, but even when discussing A-levels and things like that, like Alex said, there wasn't any mention of apprenticeships. That was never really an option on the table. You either went to university and then went into work as a graduate, or you just started work, and those were the only options laid out to me. So I did A-levels, so I did biology, maths and physics, and I attended the University of Leicester to do a bachelor's of mechanical engineering, which was fabulous. And then I decided that I wanted to actually go and work as opposed to staying on to do a master's. Although now that I'm a line manager for apprentices, I can see, how much more it, not that it makes sense, but combining the theoretical side of things and the real life side of things would make everything make so much more sense.
Exactly, whilst earning at the same time. And I think now when you look at the cost of degrees, you've got to be really sure you want to go and do a degree and invest that amount of money, that it's going to be, that is the right route for you. And I think showcasing the different options and talking about the different routes to ultimately still becoming a professional engineer. And that's the other thing with the different routes, the different sort of options for professional registration. Some people don't even realize that there is professional registration as an engineer, and that it's a professionally recognized, vocation. So how did you find out about the route that you wanted to choose in terms of professional registration?
I think so. It wasn't mentioned during my graduate scheme, strangely. For some reason, it didn't come up. I had a broad range of things that I did, so I'd always suggest to say yes to all opportunities. But when I started at IMechE 5 years ago now, it was essentially immediately brought up, and someone said, well, you have a bachelor's, therefore you can become incorporated. And I was like, oh, okay, I didn't realize that was an option. And I know that a lot of companies also provide like financial incentives as well, to encourage you to do that. In my case, I sort of started building up my application straight away, because I know it's important to have experience alongside it. And I was sort of encouraged to do it also so at that point I was assistant engineer, and at that time, if I gained incorporated engineer status, I could also progress to design engineer. And yeah, so that's really how I found out about it. But if someone hadn't have mentioned it, I wouldn't have necessarily known about it.
Yeah. And so for us, even if we're doing engagement at university level, say, and even at college level, being able to talk about the options for professional registration so that young people recognize this is a professional industry I can get into. I think some of the stigma around engineering is that it's not seen as professional as some other career options you could choose, like lawyer or accountant or doctor, and actually being able to challenge that stigma and say, no, it is professional if you get the professional registration sort of status. So yeah, it's really interesting for me to hear how different people come across that and which route is best for them. And I think even going back to younger people at school, being able to show them sort of the route into ultimately the profession they can reach is inspiring. So this map that I've got on here, Routes into Engineering, again, is from that same guide I mentioned earlier, the Tomorrow's Engineers Guide. And they do have a different one for England, Wales, Scotland, and Northern Ireland. This is the England one. So they are slightly different depending on where you're based in the UK. But you can see on here, it is, again, I think a little bit confusing. But if you have this up and you can almost show them the route through, depending on what people are interested in, what starting point they've got, and be able to talk through the different options, and then maybe show what your route was, but give some examples of other routes. So even being able to use Alex Keeler as a role model, saying, and she took this route into being incorporated, and being able to show examples of diverse engineers who've taken different routes, I think is a very powerful way of sort of telling that story of the options available to young people. Thanks, Alex. That's really helpful. If you can stay on the call and answer any questions that people have got, or any more comments you've got to add, that would be brilliant as we go through. Thank you. All right, so trying to, I think, tell a story with the information about advice on routes into engineering is a powerful way, rather than bombarding them with just too many facts, figures, different images. Almost using it as an opportunity to be able to tell a story, I think is a very powerful way of doing it. But there's still, if you haven't done some of the options like apprenticeship and T-level, I doubt anybody on the call has done T-level since they're very new. It can be hard to talk about or give options for those things that you haven't lived through the experience yourself. And also staying up to date with the changing landscape of what's going on, which is why we've brought Andrew. So Andrew, I know that your camera isn't working, but if you're able to sort of get ready to come unmuted so you can tell us a bit more about T-levels, that would be super. Because I certainly think this is something where being able to provide information about T-levels and be able to signpost young people as to where they can go if they want to do this option that's more vocational, and talk about the different options they have available to them, is fantastic. So are you able to share with us, first of all, let's cover what are T-levels, and then how you would suggest that our STEM ambassadors are able to talk about them to young people?
Thank you, Alex. It's rather like we talked last week, wasn't it? T, of course, is something that people wonder why we've got that letter T, and that letter T is, of course, saying for technical. It's T for technical, as against A for academic. Yeah, okay. Yeah. I'm about to exit because I've got to go somewhere. I've got to be somewhere tonight that I didn't think I had to. But this situation with T for technical, as against A for academic. It's the new way forwards. It's going to be the new funded system, and just do it.
So how would you advise that our STEM ambassadors can talk about this? If they're, say, talking to...
I think the thing to do, the things that the ambassadors need to do, is go and make contact with their local colleges. And go and make contact with the colleges. As you're already working in the industry, make contacts in your company and get the colleges and the companies working together along with students. And as you've got a very privileged situation as a STEM ambassador, I think that is the way that you have to deal with it.
Yeah, and the fact
I am going to have to go, I'm afraid. And I thought I was going to be here for a bit, but I can't do.
No worry, and no worries. Thank you. Well, maybe what we'll do is be able to signpost people to your book as well. And I know you're very involved.
We'll chat again another day.
All right. Thanks, Andrew. So I think one of the key things about T-levels is the fact that they are far more vocational. So the fact that they have a 45-day industry placement as part of them. So it's a requirement for the students who were sort of in the age range of sort of 17, 18 to be able to actually go into industry and do their 45-day placement. So that's the thing that really hugely sets them apart from A-levels, where they're going into school every day. And the 2 years, so it's still 2 years. And when they get that T level, it is equivalent to 3 A-levels. So then it is still an option, a route into them going on and getting higher education at university, or going on and doing an apprenticeship at that point. So it's a different option to A-levels, but far more focused on the hands-on work experience, and being able to get that vocational experience and skills. And then I've given on the slide here some of the T levels that are available, but there are more becoming available. As I said, this is new, so there are more becoming available, but a lot of them are very heavily sort of focused around things like engineering, design, technology, manufacturing. So as engineers, to be able to show this is an option, if students don't want to just carry on full-time at school, they want to do something a bit different that is capitalizing on their unique strengths. Maybe that is being more hands-on, or maybe that's just wanting to actually get into the world of work. And I believe that there is the option of paying the students. Now, Andrew's not on the call to correct me, but I don't think companies have to pay them, but there is the option of paying them. So for the students, there is an option of getting paid as well as part of this. So keep an eye out for more information coming out. There's definitely a lot of work that the government are doing to try and encourage the uptake of T levels. So keep an eye out for that. And if your company is interested in getting involved in providing the work placement opportunities for these students, the industrial placement opportunities, then I think they're really keen for more industries to get involved. It could be a fantastic thing to be a part of. And then it's almost like, like any kind of internship or work placement for the employer is the best way of actually having a really good understanding of whether that person is going to fit in your business, and whether you want to keep them on long term and offer them a job, offer them an apprenticeship. So I think it's a fantastic thing to do, and hopefully will become much more commonplace. Okay, if you've got any questions about that, put it in the chat. If we can't answer them, we can pass them on to Andrew and then get back to you all with his answers. So another area, another route to keep up to date with is around apprenticeships and different types of apprenticeships. Now, I'd be really interested for those who are on the call who said they did an apprenticeship to maybe let us know which kind of apprenticeship they did and how they found that, because it is obviously a very different option to just going to university and having that more academic route. So there are a number of different levels of apprenticeship. And I have met somebody recently who did a degree apprenticeship, and she said that was absolutely fantastic. So being able to come out with a degree, having got a lot of work experience and got paid through the process, that sounds absolutely brilliant to me. So any questions, comments, or feedback from the audience on apprenticeships? Anything you want to share about apprenticeships for those who have done them, that they can maybe share some of their experience and wisdom with us on apprenticeships? So I can see we had Peter, and who else said they did an apprenticeship? Paul. Either of you want to give us some insight as to what you did on your apprenticeship and how you feel, maybe why you chose that option and how you think that benefited you? Feel free to speak up later on if you feel like coming on board, but thank you for Yelena to put that message in the chat. Yeah, sorry about Andrew, that was obviously a bit of confusion on our side. Yeah, and Lewis has said, I think degree apprenticeships also help address some of the diversity challenges in engineering. Yeah, I completely agree. I think that is a fantastic point. And what we're trying to do with so many different areas of the work that we do is drive greater diversity. And so to provide those options that are going to suit different types of people, different types of working structures, being able to earn on the job if you can't afford to fund yourself at university, that is only going to be a good thing in terms of opening up diversity. Absolutely. So I think the fact that we can also inspire our young people that we're talking to by showcasing just the variety on offer in engineering careers. So the phrase engineering is everywhere is absolutely key and true. And I love this diagram that again is from Tomorrow's Engineers, and there's similar ones on other websites, Engineering UK, you've got from the different professional institutions, but being able to showcase so many different ways out there that you can make a difference in the world through engineering, without it being, I mean, sometimes it can feel overwhelming, but being able to sort of maybe even ask the young people you're talking to, which out of these things sounds interesting to you? If you had to choose one of these careers, which would it be and why? So that you can tap into the things that they care about, be it the environment, be it sport, be it helping people, and then show that engineering is the route to be able to make a difference in that field. I think it's very powerful. I'm coming back to role models as well. We've got an example here of how you may want to showcase diverse role models who've done different routes into engineering throughout your talk or your workshop that you're running with young people. So we've got Delani here, who is one of our STEMazing women as well, who did a degree apprenticeship, and she did robotics. And so she did A-levels, and then she went on to do her degree apprenticeship. And I've spoken to her about that and why she did that. And she was saying things like, well, first of all, I earned money straight off, and not being able to have to find the money or build up huge debt by going to university. So that was a massive thing. And just getting the experience straight off, being able to apply what you're learning to the real world straight off. So Delani is a great role model to use, as is Alex Keeler. And if you've got role models within your industry and your company that you can showcase, especially if you are a white man, for example, and you want to showcase the diversity, then being able to actually have images on the slides is a fantastic way of doing it. Oh, John has put, I was an NCB student apprentice and then engineering trainee, i.e. nationalized industry. Yeah, and I think, you know, so looking at the different sort of generations and what were the trends of how people got into engineering in different generations is interesting. And it's one of those things that as it's always changing, keeping up with the options, but also making all options attractive. Because I think it used to be a lot more common for engineers to do apprenticeships, and it was seen as a fantastic thing to do. And then for some reason, degrees sort of became the thing to do if you wanted to become a professional engineer. And now hopefully we're seeing some balance be created. So I'm hopeful that the vocational route into engineering alongside the academic route into engineering are going to be equally as attractive. Okay, so I've put quite a few different signposts here for you that have more information where you can go and find out more information about, for example, apprenticeships, if you didn't do an apprenticeship yourself, or getting modern up-to-date information on apprenticeships. So on the government website, they have some good information, and especially if you're looking as a company to get involved in apprenticeship schemes, then Amazing Apprenticeships, that's the website name, Amazing Apprenticeships, and I put a screenshot of it there, has got loads of fabulous resources. These are apprenticeships across the board, so not just engineering, but there are engineering and design and manufacturing ones on there, which are brilliant, again, to signpost. Then there's some other signposts here that I've got for you. so that you can tell young people, or sort of introduce young people to the options available to them if they don't want to go to university, and also if they do want to go to university. So you've got things like not going to uni.co.uk, but equally you've got things like the Guardian University Guide. So depending on how much support and advice they get at school, which can be very varied, it's useful to be able to show them, like Alex was saying, she didn't have the advice at school about apprenticeships, about different routes into engineering. So being able to show these kind of resources and signposts for further reading is a useful way of being able to support and inspire the young people that you're talking to. So there's a load of links on there. I suggest you probably take a picture of that, or put a screenshot of that, so that you can then go and look up these links, because there is fantastic information out there, and depending on the kind of talk you're doing and the age level that you're pitching that at, then I would suggest, like university stuff, you're probably going to be talking to GCSE and A-level or college level students about that. But introducing the idea of apprenticeships you want to do while they're still at school, so that they know that that is an option for them. Okay, fantastic. If you've got any questions at all as we're going, feel free to put those in the chat. And one of the last things I wanted to say is how important it is to have a key takeaway message when you're doing STEM outreach. And I think this is really important when giving advice on different options into engineering, to leave with a higher level inspiring message that you want people to remember, you want your audience to remember. And some of the key takeaways about engineering making a positive difference to people's lives and the planet, those are some of the key themes that young people care about. The fact that engineering is for everyone. So regardless of how you learn, what your strengths are, what your background is, you belong in engineering. And obviously we're trying to drive greater diversity and create more inclusive cultures in engineering. And we can help that with our STEM outreach. It's a fundamental piece of what we can do, is to encourage everyone to consider engineering. I also think it's an important point about engineers being in demand. So we don't have enough engineers in this country. Industry is crying out for more engineers. So letting young people know they will be in demand with these skills and these qualifications, and they can earn a good living, they can earn well and have a rewarding career at the same time doing something that they love. Those kind of messages that leave your audience feeling inspired, even at a young age, being able to talk about how they can make a difference in the world, earn a good living and have a rewarding career at the same time is very inspiring. I also think there are some misconceptions and stereotypes around needing to be a genius at maths and physics to be able to become an engineer. And interestingly, I'm hearing more commonly that some universities are not mandating that you must have maths and physics to be able to get into university. So universities like Teddy in London, they offer a foundation in maths qualification, or you can do an assessment and see where your maths is at and get the support you need at a foundation level to be able to go on and do engineering there without having had maths A level. So I think that's really interesting as well, how we're opening up the doors into universities to do engineering without such stringent requirements on maths and physics. And of course, like we were talking with Alex, being able to work towards professional registration. So having a recognised professional qualification as an engineer, once you've got your qualifications and your experience on top of that. So that is a fantastic point as a key takeaway as well, I think. Any other key takeaways that you tend to leave your audience? So STEM ambassadors that have had some experience with this already, what do you think resonates with your audience? Feel free to put that in the chat so that we can share the kind of key takeaways that people like to leave with young people. So Thomas has said, I didn't have maths at A-level and I failed my physics A-level. However, my degree taught me what I needed to become an engineer. Yes, thanks for sharing that. That's really interesting. My husband didn't do maths A-level and he's now a chartered engineer. So it absolutely is possible. And I think the more people that are aware of that, the more people we're opening up, especially girls, to go on and do engineering. If we're not having those requirements around maths, obviously we want to encourage more girls to stick at maths and physics as well, but those that haven't, it doesn't mean they can't go on to become engineers. And I took the red bit on the slide here, you'll see I took from the IMechE website, because I think this is actually a fantastic way of leaving an inspirational thought with your audience, is to ask some of these big questions and let them know that it is engineers that will be finding the solutions to the world's biggest challenges. For example, how we can feed a growing population, where we're going to get our energy requirements from, how do we live sustainably, you know, when will we be living on Mars? Those kind of big questions, throwing out to the audience and getting them thinking about it. This is our future. And as engineers, we get to design that future. We get to choose what that looks like and design it. So these are some powerful key takeaways you can leave with your audience. Yeah, Andrea said, engineering is all around you. It's how we communicate, the homes we live in, how we move, cycling, train, car, plane. Yeah, absolutely. Thanks, Andrea. I love that. Engineering is all around you. It is everywhere. Absolutely. And even getting them to recognize and appreciate the engineering that they've encountered that day on their way to school, at their homes, you know, just how important it is all around us. Yeah, and Alex, thank you. That's a very good point. Sharing how exciting engineering can be. Yeah, absolutely. The excitement that you get from working on in an engineering team, working on something that is really making a difference. And to bring that excitement, again, talking about showcasing diverse role models and different people as part of your STEM outreach. If it's just you going along to a presentation, then using the Royal Academy of Engineering This Is Engineering campaign, videos and images and case studies. They're snappy short videos, but they get the message across about how exciting engineering is in so many different fields, to showcase that diversity and that variety of what you can go into. So yeah, make the most of those resources. Keep it simple in terms of initially the high level routes into engineering. So that first diagram I showed, which has a very simple map of the different routes, and then maybe using the slightly more detailed one that goes into more detail, and you can talk about your route that you took, and then maybe some examples of alternative stories of real life engineers like Delani doing her degree apprenticeship, that can help bring that those different options to life. I think that's a powerful way of doing it. And of course, being able to at least introduce the idea of T-levels. And on the T-levels slide, I had a link in there to the government website about T-levels. In fact, I just pop back to that so that we can draw attention to that. tlevels.gov.uk. That's where students can go to get more information about T-levels and to see the colleges that are offering T-levels near them. So their specific school and college may not offer it, but they can find out where is offering those that option for them. Okay, so that is another good signpost to provide when talking about T-levels. All right, fantastic. Well, I think we are at the end of the slides there. If anyone's got any more questions or anything that they wanted to share on routes into engineering, any gaps that you feel you have, or any further support you feel that you need, or whether you feel more confident now to talk about the different options that are available to young people to get into engineering. So let us know in the chat how you're feeling and any final questions that you've got. It's brilliant that we've had that we've got a diverse audience here today who've done different options themselves. That's fantastic. All right, well, if there's no further questions, just a reminder that we are continuing on with our STEM training. So it would be great to see you at our next event, which is on the 18th of July. And that one, we'll be talking about inclusion at the core of STEM outreach. So I've mentioned diversity and inclusion a couple of times this evening, being able to ensure that our STEM outreach is inclusive of our audience, depending on different people's needs, how they learn, how we ensure that we're appealing and accessible to the whole audience is an important part of us as STEM ambassadors being able to help build that more diverse and inclusive STEM future. So that's going to be a fantastic discussion about inclusion at the core of STEM. So hopefully you can meet us again for that one on the 18th of July. I can see Paul's put in the chat, who do I contact in the IMechE for STEM literature? So if you go to the STEM ambassadors page on the IMechE website, you'll see resources for you as a STEM ambassador, and Yelena can provide more information on that. But there's also the links that I put in the presentation today where there are loads of amazing resources. So you don't have to reinvent the wheel, start from scratch. You can use what is available to help you be a really inspiring ambassador. Thanks, Lewis, for your comment there. Hopefully see you at the next one. That's fantastic. So Paul has said, Alex, do you think schools are promoting T-levels enough, or are they incentivized by A-level students and grades? That is a fantastic question, Paul. I don't know the answer to that, if I'm honest. I know that T-levels are very new, and that I think there's that added complexity of them needing to have the 45-day work placement, which involves schools and colleges linking up with industry. I mean, I even had a contact from a college today asking if STEMazing could help them with links into industry to be able to provide those opportunities for young people choosing T-levels. So I think we're going to see a large increase in colleges wanting to connect with industry, which is a good thing. But how we're going to manage that and how we're going to make it work really effectively as the number of young people doing T-levels increases, because it is forecasted to increase significantly by the trends that the government are talking about. So we as industry want to be able to support that and find the ways that's feasible to do that. So yeah, I'm not sure exactly the conversations going on at school levels and how well they're promoting T-levels or not. I'm not even sure how much schools truly understand that and the options available to them. So for us to be able to even raise the awareness of teachers and schools that this is an option, I think is an important part of our role. Thanks very much. I'm going to stop sharing my screen and see if Yelena has got any final comments to share with us.
I think, Alex, you've covered most of it, and apologies everyone that Andrew had to leave us in the middle. So I think that if you have any further questions, please do pass them on to us, and if they're a little bit specific, we'll find out the answer and get back to you. There is that wider piece that we are trying to raise awareness, obviously through the STEM outreach that we're doing, but also via our members and into industry, so that we can get more companies offering placements and providing that support to students. So please do pass on the information, use the materials that are available. I've put in the chat some of the neon links they have, and we work on all of the resources together. We've tried to make it as simple as possible, and I think that Alex has touched on it already. It's that wider piece with regards to not just getting more engineers into the profession. Obviously there's a need, and specifically for apprentices level 4 and upwards, but it's that widening participation piece as well. We want to get more people in, and also from more diverse backgrounds, including different ethnicities, as well as different socioeconomic backgrounds, and apprenticeships and T-levels do provide some of that flexibility. So thank you very much for joining us today and for the work that you're doing on behalf of the institution, and hope to see you next time. Alex Keeler, thank you very much for your input today as well.
Thanks, everyone. Bye.
Thank you. Bye-bye.